Hey, welcome to the Launch Workshop. This is the second video in the workshop, and whether you've got an online business, a product, a service, an online course, or a book, this is the place to get your launch planned. I'm Jeff Walker, and I've been teaching this workshop every year since 2005. Of course, it's changed a lot since then, but in that time, I've had almost 1 million people go through this training, and they've launched all kinds of products, services, courses, books, even entire businesses, in almost every market niche in every corner of the world that you can think of. Now, in this workshop, I'll be teaching you the core of my product launch formula, or PLF for short. If you're not familiar with me or my work, well, I created the product launch formula, and I can pretty much guarantee that if you don't know me, you've at least seen some of my clients using the formula, even if you didn't know it at the time. The formula is this proven, time-tested playbook that's been used by thousands of people to quickly start and grow an online business. Now, if you're just starting out, this is how you start fast. And if you've already got an online business, this is how you grow that business fast. Because here's the thing, the product launch phenomenon has completely changed the online business world. And it's no wonder. I mean, if you look at the way Apple releases their products, or how Hollywood opens their movies, or the way the video game industry launches their new games, they use a structured, sequenced product launch that gets people lining up to buy their product before it's even released. And that's because these launches, they get you big time momentum and sales right from the start. Now, if you missed the first video in this series, you should go check it out now, because I covered why now is the best time to launch an online business. And I showed the single one core strategy behind the most successful online business and product launches. If you haven't seen that video yet, go watch it right now. There's a link to it at the top of this page. Then come back for the second video. I'll still be here waiting for you. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you the 3 specific launch campaigns that have helped my business generate millions of dollars in sales. And more importantly, it's helped my students generate over $500 million in sales. I'm going to show you those three launch campaigns. It's the seed launch, the internal launch, and the joint venture launch, which is otherwise known as the JV launch. I'm going to help you find the one that's the right fit for you right now. I'm also going to show you how to stack your launches so they get bigger and stronger as you go from launch to launch. Because once you learn how to do these launches, you're going to want to keep on doing them. Now, we're going to cover a lot of ground today, so be sure to download the PDF action guide on this page so you can follow along and take notes. So there's a reason you're watching this video. It's either you've got a business that you want to grow, or you're ready to start an online business. You want all the freedoms that an online business will give you, like the time freedom, the location freedom, freedom of who you work with, and the ultimate freedom, which is the freedom of purpose. Now, I've helped thousands of people start their businesses, and thousands more grow their businesses they already had. And the one thing I've noticed is that there's this broad spectrum for why people create their business. On one end, over here, some people, they say, Jeff, I just want to make $1 million. And on the other end of the spectrum, they say, Jeff, I just want to save the world. It's not about the money for me. And you know what? I can identify with both of those perspectives. When I started out, I was a stay-at-home dad, and we were barely scraping by. I was desperate to make some money and help support my family. But now I'm in a different place. I've had a lot of success, and I don't have a huge lifestyle that I need to fund, and I'm in this business to make the biggest positive impact I can make. So I've really been on both ends of that spectrum. I've helped people on this journey, and what I've noticed is that people who are over on this side, who just want to make the money, well, after they get the money, they usually start to think about doing good, about making an impact. And then for the folks over here, they start to realize it's a lot easier to make an impact when they've got money, when the dollars are rolling in. And that's what I love about our kinds of businesses. You have that freedom to build your business to fit your lifestyle and your goals. If you look at it, the internet gives us this amazing global platform. It's the world's greatest gift to entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs like you and me. Not long ago, if you wanted to start a business, you needed a lot of capital, and you needed to take on huge risks. You needed to sign a lease, put together a business plan, find investors, get loans, hire a bunch of people, buy expensive equipment. Nowadays, if you've got access to the internet, you can be in business in a few hours. The tools that are available to build a business online they're amazing. They just weren't there even a few years ago. And frankly, the training wasn't there either. It's this simple. These are the glory days to launch your online business. Now, there's a downside to all of this. There's a danger. Because it's so easy to get started, a lot of people depend on what I call hope marketing. You know, hope's a really interesting word. It can save your life if you're shipwrecked at sea. It's really important that you have that hope. It can literally keep you alive until you're rescued. But in business, hope is an awful word. You never want to hope that your marketing does okay. There isn't a ship coming to rescue you. You need to have a plan, a formula, and you need to put that formula in place. I see this hope marketing show up all the time. Here's an example. Someone puts all their time into creating a product. They work on it, and they work on it, and they just sort of release it. They just put it out in the world, and they hope that clients will come. They hope someone will buy their product or service. You know the old build it and they will come? Well, that might work in the movies, but it doesn't work in real life. What really happens is that those businesses, well, they have this long and painful death. They just fade away and they die. You don't want that. Well, the cure for hope marketing is a well-structured, well-engineered launch. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to bother with marketing. Maybe you just want to create your baby and you'll find someone else to take care of the marketing. Or you think if your product is good enough, it will sell itself. Or you might be like I was when I started out, and you're just really creeped out with the idea of marketing or selling. You don't want to seem slimy or hypey or like a used car salesman. Well, that's all hope marketing. And this is reality. If you don't get your marketing figured out, you won't have a business, and it will just be a failure to launch. The truth is, you wouldn't be watching this video if you didn't have a gift to bring to the world, if you weren't ready to step up and share that gift in a bigger way. Whether you're just starting out or you've already got a business, you're ready to raise your game and build something great. You owe it to yourself and to the world to play a bigger game. And the product launch formula is how you share your message, your product, your service, how you share your business to the world in an authentic and value-filled way. It's the way you market super effectively without being slimy or hypey. Now, I hope you join me in the Product Launch Formula coaching program, but no matter what, remember this. There's magic in a launch, because really, it's just not possible to start slowly and survive. It just doesn't work that way. Your business withers away, you have cash flow problems, you lose momentum, you lose energy. You just can't start slowly and survive. And I say that from experience, because I'm really my own patient zero. In other words, everything started out as an experiment I did on myself. Everything I'm teaching you is what I've learned from my own hard-won experience. So in 2005, I got a phone call that would change everything in my business, and really in my life. It was one of those calls you never want to get. When I picked up the phone, I had a nice business. I'd come a long way in a few short years. When I started my business, I was a stay-at-home dad taking care of my 2 small children, and other than my family, I had nothing going for me. I hadn't made a single dollar in years. My wife was supporting the family by working long hours in the corporate world. I started my business out of pure desperation. We were really struggling financially and just trying to keep our heads above water. And I needed to relieve some of the pressure off my wife, Mary. She was the only breadwinner for our family, and she just wanted more time with our children. At the start of that business, I discovered, almost by accident, a new way to market and sell online. Over the years, that new way of selling would eventually become my product launch formula. In any case, within a few years, Mary was able to leave her job and be home with me and the kids and help me in my business. That business was all about the stock market. I had a partner in that business, and we published a newsletter every business day of the year. We basically told people what we thought was going to happen in the stock market, and we were good at it. We had subscribers that stuck with us year after year. It was a great business, and I was able to move my family to our dream hometown out in the mountains of Colorado. And I had a lot of flexibility to be with my family and do all the outdoor things that I love to do. I had a great income that was beyond anything I'd ever dreamed of, and we had great clients. Life was really good. And then came that fateful phone call on a beautiful spring day. I remember it was a Friday afternoon, and it was almost time to kick back and relax with the family for the weekend. The call was from my business partner, and it only lasted a few minutes. I remember walking over to pick up that phone, and when I hung up just 5 minutes later, my business and my income was basically gone. It was almost surreal. My partner decided to go in a different direction, as he said. He had secretly started a competing business, and he'd already started taking all of our hard-won clients to his new business. In a few minutes on that phone call, I just lost my livelihood, and my immediate thought was my family. And how was I going to support them? Now, I can't lie. In addition to the financial hardship, this wasn't an easy thing to take emotionally. I'd spent more than 8 years building up that business, and to have it all taken away, that, well, just wasn't easy. But this is the thing, and maybe you've had a moment like this in your life. I knew it was time to move on. I knew I had a bigger future in front of me. This is going to be my time to start over, my time to build something great. And I also knew that I had a secret weapon. At the same time that my emotions were just churning away, I knew that I had the formula to start over. I could rebuild, and I could do it quickly. And I could even do it better than I had the first time around. It was almost like I had this unfair advantage. I knew exactly how to start. Since I was going into a new market with a new business, and I didn't have a product or a list, I would use a seed launch. I figured this way I'd bring in some money quickly, which was awesome since I just lost my income. And I would get paid before I even created my product. But there was another really cool benefit. You see, I was creating a training product in a new market. I had a lot of knowledge and skill in my new market, but I didn't have any experience teaching in that market. But the way the seed launch is structured, it almost guarantees that you're going to create a great product and get it done quickly. So it was about a month later that I started my seed launch for my new business. Of course, I know all about humble beginnings, and this was another one for me. Since I was brand new in this market and I didn't start with a list, well, I only made 6 sales in the seed launch. Now I have to admit, I had hoped for more sales, but I knew the seed launch isn't about quantity. It's about getting that initial momentum, getting your first sales and building your product. And I knew that 6 clients was all I needed to get started. It was enough to begin building, enough to create a product. So I delivered a classic seed launch product. It was a series of teleseminars. I split my content into 5 sections, and I delivered on those 5 calls. I made sure it was super interactive and that I answered everyone's questions. And because it was so interactive, it helped me deliver a great product. I did some extra bonus calls because I learned long ago that over-delivering on your promise is the easiest way to create raving fans. You just go an extra step or 2 and your clients will love you. In any case, I worked really hard to make my clients happy and successful. And because they're so successful, I ended up getting some great case studies and testimonials. And here's the important thing. In doing those calls and teaching those first clients, I started to learn true mastery of the teaching of my topic. That made my product amazing from the start. You know, over the years, I've met a lot of people that worry about creating a perfect product. And that's a really bad thing because no one will ever create the perfect product. And really that pursuit of perfection, well, it ends up being nothing more than an avoidance tool, a bad excuse for never releasing your product. The thing is, no matter how good you are at something, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to automatically be a great teacher. But because the seed launch process is so interactive, it makes creating a great product almost inevitable. The product is tuned to what your clients want and need. The product won't be perfect, but it's going to be great, and it will be done. Okay, so I was off to a nice start, but 6 sales, well, it wasn't going to pay the bills for very long, and it certainly wasn't much of a business yet, and so it was time to move on to my next launch. After all, I had a family to support. Now, the standard product launch formula path is going from seed launch to an internal launch and then a joint venture launch. But you know how they say sometimes rules are made to be broken, and that's what I did in this case. I went straight from my seed launch to a JV launch. I'd gone to a few seminars in my new market niche, and I'd made a bunch of friends at those seminars. A few of those friends had significant businesses with strong email lists. And when I asked them to promote my launch, they agreed. I put together a great sideways sales letter, and then I counted down to launch day. It was October 21st, 2005, when I pushed that send button on my launch. Now, I'll admit that I was really nervous. This was the start of a new business. It'd been 7 months since that phone call from my ex-partner that ended my first business, and since I'd lost my income. I put in a lot of work in starting over. I was in a new market with a new product, I had a new website, and I had these new JV partners. Well, I didn't have to wait long. The orders started coming in almost immediately. Within the first 15 minutes, I had over $50,000 in sales. And they didn't stop there. In less than a week, that launch brought in $600,000 in sales. Within a few months after the launch, my revenue was over $1 million. In my first business, it had taken me 6 long years to get to $1 million in revenue. The second time around, with the right launch formula, it had taken just 6 months. Of course, not all that was mine to keep. I had commissions to pay to my partners and had some other costs, but it was still an amazing start for my new business. But really, the money I made in that launch was just a drop in the bucket compared to everything else the launch did, because it launched an entire business for me. You see, that was the very first launch of my flagship product, the Product Launch Formula coaching program. That one joint venture launch gave me an immediate positioning as a top leader in the market. It gave me instant momentum, and it built my list from nothing to 20,000 people in just a few weeks. And it's amazing to think about it, but I've now had over 10,000 students go through my training, and I've generated over $25 million in sales for Product Launch Formula. And my students, this is the important part, my students have done over $500 million in sales of their products. And this is the part I love. Their products have helped thousands of people in hundreds of markets, from learning tennis to healing brain trauma to calligraphy to raw food diets to couples therapy to reading echocardiograms. And to think all of those people that my clients have been able to help is just amazing. There are couples who saved their marriage because of my clients' products. There are people who didn't have heart attacks because of my clients' products. And it all started with my very modest seed launch with 6 sales. And the ripples that spread from that humble launch, it just gives me chills to think about. You know, I have some clients that have had huge results with Product Launch Formula, amazing, earth-shaking results. And I love to hear from them about their success. But I still get just as excited when I hear about the people that are doing their very first seed launch, because I know what a huge positive impact that seed launch can have on a family and on the world. That's what this video is all about. How to start from scratch and build a life-changing business that gives you the lifestyle, the income, and the impact that you want. And if you've already got a business already, then this is the formula to grow that business fast. So in this video, I'm going to show you my main 3 big guns when it comes to launching. Those 3 launches are the internal launch, the seed launch, and the joint venture launch. These are the go-to launches that you're going to use over and over, and they're going to become the framework for your marketing. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to start with the seed launch because that's where I started when it was time for me to start over. The seed launch is great if you're just starting out. If you don't have a list or a product, this is the place to start. But it's also great if you have an existing business and you've got an idea for a new product, but you just can't seem to get around to creating the product. If that's you, then this is perfect, because it makes creating your product super easy and fast. So to get started with the seed launch, the first thing you need to do is gather a small list of email subscribers, like 100 people would be great. Now these days it's easy to do that in social media. If you just start publishing about your topic on social, then you can attract followers pretty quickly. You watch for the hot topics, what keeps people awake at night, then you put together some kind of content about that specific topic, whether it's a pain point or a question or an aspiration. The content, well, it could be a video or it could be a PDF report. It doesn't have to be big or long or complicated. You can keep it simple. Then you put up a really simple web page where people can join your list in exchange for that content. We call that a lead page or an opt-in page. Years ago, it was really painful to create one of these pages, but now with tools like leadpages.net or ClickFunnels, you could create a really nice page in minutes, literally minutes, just by filling in a few forms. So that's how you get that first list of subscribers. Now, it doesn't have to be complicated. 100 people would be great, but why don't you go crazy and get 200 or 300 people on your list? The thing is, there's power in a small list like this, because they tend to be very responsive for a couple of reasons. First, there's this factor of recency. People who have recently joined your list, well, they're always more responsive. Second, when you're just starting out with a small list, your subscribers, well, they really feel like they know you. And this adds up to small lists being a lot more responsive. So once you have your first seed list rocking, then you put together a very simple sideways sales letter. Now again, if you haven't seen that first video in this workshop, go watch it now so you can see the formula for the sideways sales letter. There's going to be a link to that video at the top of this page. So your pre-launch content for a seed launch is generally pretty darn simple. You don't have to do a fancy video. In fact, it's often just a few emails or social media posts. So you publish that simplified sideways sales letter and then you make your offer. And this is where the magic is. The offer you're going to make is for a series of training or coaching calls. You do it as a series of teleseminars or webinars or hangouts. So you have all your new clients who are learning together all at once on that call from you. The great thing about this is that the technology is so simple. If you can use a phone, you can host a teleseminar. And there are even free tools for this. I'm going to cover some of those tools in my next video in this workshop. That's the product launch blueprint. So let's go deeper here. Let's pretend your market is teaching people how to play guitar. The message in your pre-launch could be super simple. It's something along the lines of, ever since I started sharing my guitar tips on my blog and on Facebook, I've had a lot of folks asking me if I could do some type of guitar boot camp. And I thought the idea sounded really cool, and I think I finally figured out how to do it. I'm going to offer it as a series of 5 interactive webinars where I'll walk you step by step through my entire learning guitar from scratch process. Now, of course, that's a little bit rough, but one key is that it's a very attractive type of offer. People love this type of live interactive training. So now the seed launch, this is key. Seed launch is not about making $1 million. The big dollars are down the road. This first seed launch is about getting 10 or 20 or 30 people just to say yes to your offer. Your pricing will depend on a lot of things, including your market, but I've seen seed launches priced anywhere from $187, and I've seen them all the way up to $3,000. So then you take your content and you deliver it over a series of webinars or teleseminars. You can make it 5 calls or 3 calls or 7 calls, whatever fits your topic. This is one of those situations where you get to make up your own rules. Now, the best way to decide is to think about your subject, then split it into big topic areas. Then you do 1 call on each topic area. Now, actually doing the calls is simple. Before each call, you send out a super short survey to find out what your client's top questions are about that specific topic. And their answers will tell you what you need to cover for that topic. That's the outline for your first call. Then you just repeat that process for each call. Now, this is the key. You record everything. If you did 5 calls and they each lasted 60 to 90 minutes, you're going to end up with 5 hours or more of audio. You could take that and get it transcribed, and you'll have 60, 80, maybe even 90 pages of content. So now you have the audio recordings, you have the transcripts, and your product's basically done. That's why this is such an amazing process. And this is really important. Since everything is super interactive, you end up creating a product that's really, well, it's tuned to what your prospects want and need. And you're going to have a great product. And if you're a perfectionist, and I can go there sometimes, I can be a perfectionist, this is how you can get past that and finally get your product done and get it out into the world where it can do some good. So the amazing thing is that you started from scratch with no list, no product, and now you've got clients, a product, testimonials, and a list. And even more, you've proven that you could do it to your friends, to your family, to your colleagues, and to yourself. Okay, so let's move on to the internal launch. This is the next step after the seed launch. Or if you've already got an existing business, well, this is probably where you'll start. The time to use the internal launch is when you already have a list of prospects or clients. You might already have a business or some type of online presence, and you've built up an email list or some kind of a following on social. The reason this is called an internal launch is because you're using your own internal list to promote your launch to. So this is the sideways sales letter that I covered in my first video. You put out 3 pieces of pre-launch content, or PLC for short, and then you send your list to your PLC. These days, the pre-launch content is generally done with videos, but it doesn't have to be. You can use email or blog posts, or even stuff like podcasts. And one thing I want to mention right here, if you're doing video, it doesn't have to look as fancy as mine. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've built up a bunch of experience. But I've actually seen amazing launches with the most basic video that was shot on a phone. And remember, I started with 6 sales and I grew from there. So your pre-launch content delivers great value. This is the classic sideways sales letter. The first video is about the journey or the opportunity. This is where you're showing how their life can really change for the better. In the second one, you cover the transformation. And the third video is where you start to pivot towards the sale. This is the ownership video. And all along, you're using those mental triggers we talked about in the first video in this workshop. Again, click on the link at the top of this page if you haven't already seen that video. So you mail your list and tell them about each one of those videos, and that gradually leads up into your open cart time. That's when you open up and start taking orders. And then this is the key. You need to have a definitive end to your launch. I see a lot of people mess this up. They make their launch open-ended. That's a big mistake, because when you structure this right, you'll see a big spike in sales at the end of the launch. Again, the internal launch is great if you have an existing business and a list of prospects or clients. If that's the case, well, this is almost like money in the bank. There's obviously a lot more detail and depth to this, and I go a lot deeper in the Product Launch Formula coaching program, and I hope you'll join me there. But the bottom line is this: the sideways sales letter and the internal launch will be your go-to strategy in your online success. So commit to getting it right. So the internal launch is really sweet, and I think of it as the bread and butter go-to launch. But the JV or joint venture launch, that's the launch that takes things to a whole different level. If you think about it, no matter what your market is, there are people who have already put in the hard work to gather a following of people who could be interested in your product. They've already built their community, they've built their list. Whether it's an email list or a big social media following, they've got the platform, they've got the community. Well, the JV launch is how you leverage those other people's communities. It's how you get your launch in front of all those people that are on their lists. The JV launch is a very highly leveraged strategy. If you had 4 or 5 joint venture partners and each of them had big, large lists, you could be putting your launch in front of tens of thousands of people or even more. That's instant leverage. Now, the way a JV launch looks is actually, it's a lot like an internal launch. It's basically the same sideways sales letter that you did for your internal launch. In most cases, you can actually reuse your pre-launch content from your internal launch. But now your joint venture partners are mailing their lists and telling them about your launch. Now, why would they do that? Because when you open up your cart and make a bunch of sales to the people they sent to your launch, then you'll pay them a commission on all those sales. All the sales, the leads, the commissions, those are all tracked automatically by your shopping cart software. And this is important. When your partners mail their list, they're actually sending their people to your opt-in page. So those people are joining your list. We call this a launch list. And you can build your launch list very, very quickly. I've personally added 50,000 people to my list in just a few days using this strategy. Now, please don't take that as a typical result or anything like that, but it shows the kind of leverage list building you can get with a JV launch. So once people are on your launch list, then you send them to your sideways sales letter. This means you're sending a lot more people through your launch sequence. Now, the JV launch is more complex, there's more work involved, and you need to build your relationships with your JV partners. But it's really hard to exaggerate just how powerful the JV launch strategy can be. It's how I took my launches from the 6-figure range right up into the $1 million plus range. It's why my second business, I like to call it Jeff 2.0. Well, that second business, it hit the $1 million mark in 6 months instead of in 6 years like my first business. Now, we've covered a lot of ground today, but I wanted to share one more thing with you, and that's launch stacking. This is the way it works. You start from scratch and you do a seed launch. It's not about doing $1 million or anything like that, but you use a seed launch to create your product. And since you're putting out good content, you start to build a list. Then you take the product that you created in the seed launch and that really small list you built in the seed launch, and then you do an internal launch. You put together your sideways sales letter, and because you've delivered some real value, you get your people excited, and then you get some great word of mouth. All of a sudden, your list is growing. You open your cart and you get some really nice sales. Great launch. And then because of your internal launch and your really solid pre-launch content, the value you built in your pre-launch content, you caught the attention of a possible JV partner or two in your market. So you do a JV launch with just a couple of partners. All of a sudden, you've got some established people in your market telling their lists about you and just how awesome your content is. And now your list is growing by the hour. You open cart and your sales are 10 times what you did in your internal launch. Yes, you've got to pay affiliate commissions, but your end results completely blow away what your internal launch did. That's launch stacking. That's sort of a quick view of it. And it doesn't end there, because now you've got new ideas for products to create and launch. And I'm sure you can see how this can get, well, it can almost be addicting. So here's the thing. Once you do this, your first launch is never going to be your last launch. Why wouldn't you keep on doing it over and over again? So if you're watching this, you probably fall into one of 4 categories. First, you've got an existing business that you're looking to build. Second, you might be some type of practitioner. You might be a health practitioner or a coach. You're helping people with their money or their health or their success or their relationships, or with a hobby or with a sport or something else. You're working with people one-on-one, and it's time for you to start getting some leverage. It's time for you to start getting products out there so you can make more money without working more hours. The third category is you're an author or a soon-to-be author, or you're some type of an artist. Whether you have a book or you're creating some type of art, well, the reality is that the only person who's going to market your book or your art is you. And the best way to get it out there is with a launch. Now, the fourth category is you're starting from scratch. You don't have a list, you don't have a product, you don't have a business, and maybe you don't even have an idea for a business yet, and you don't know where to start. Well, that's where I was. That's exactly where I was when I started out. Or you might just want to help other folks with this launch process. You want to partner with other people and help them launch their products. The thing is, these 3 launches can fit into every one of those categories. If you've already got an online business, then you're probably already thinking about an internal launch, and that could set you up for one of maybe the biggest months that you've ever had in your business. Or you might be thinking of some potential JV partners, and you could do a JV launch. That's where you can really leverage up. If you're in that second category, and if you're a practitioner or a coach or a consultant of some type, then your key is to get some leverage. You need a product to sell, and the seed launch is just perfect for you. That's the easy way to create your product, and the bonus is that you get paid to create it. And then you can follow that seed launch up with a full-blown internal launch. If you're an author or an artist, well, it really depends exactly where you are in your journey. You might actually fit into any one of these 3 types of launches. I've seen authors or artists use all 3 types of launches, and the right fit for you depends exactly where you're at in your business, where you're at in your practice. Now, if you're absolutely just starting out from scratch, then it's all about the seed launch. That's how I started out when it was time for me to rebuild, when it was time for Jeff 2.0. And this is how you can create a product as quickly and as easily as possible, and you don't have to spend a ton of time doing it. You don't want to wait around and build up a huge list. You just need to get started really quickly with that seed launch. Okay, we've covered a huge amount of ground in this video, so take a deep breath right now. You don't need to do all of it. You don't need to know all of it. This video, well, it's really about you finding yourself in these strategies. It's about you finding your launch, about you finding your path. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you at in your launch journey? Which of these launches are you going to start with? And what action are you going to take to get started? Let me know in the comments below. Now, if you found value in this video, please share it with at least 3 people you know, especially if they have any thought of creating an online business. It's always easier to get started on this journey when you have other people on the path with you. Now, I know from experience that this training can and it will seriously change the course of many entrepreneurs' lives. Now, I want to tell you about the next video I've got for you. That's the Product Launch Blueprint. You're going to love this one. In fact, I think it will be your favorite in this series. I'm going to walk you through the entire product launch process inside that one blueprint. And you're also going to be able to download the blueprint. It's going to be really cool, and I think you're going to love it. But right now, please scroll down and first of all, hit that like button. Everyone loves to get likes. And then leave a comment for me. Tell me which of these launches you're going to do and what it's going to do for your life. And tell me, if we were to meet 3 years from now, how will your life have changed because of your launch? Scroll on down and leave a comment for me right now, and I'll see you in the next video.